suffer the consequences, and we haven't seen the worst of it yet, but it's coming, and you can already see the disaster which is shaping up. So you see, I am advocating a positive theory of gold, which gives gold a role to play to protect society and protect the individual and allow the individual to worry about his or her own protection. And the source of that desire to protect yourself is just all too obvious. Now, I'm an old man, and you can take my word for it that as you get old, you will feel more, you will feel the same thing more and more. And this is the following problem. When you are young, you have a surplus of physical and mental energy. You are confident, and rightly so. But if you forget that you will get older, when your surplus turns into a deficit, you will feel that you cannot accomplish as much as you used to, and you are no longer as alert mentally as you used to be, and generally speaking, you can fend for yourself less and less. And if you take the animal world as an example, you'll see that this really means a very miserable old age. Because in the animal world, the young is always protected, of course, the parents, well, not always, but in the case of birds and mammals, and in many other cases, the parents take good care of their young. But let me ask you, how many species of animals can you name where the animals take care of the parents when they get old? How many?
Just one.
Well, if you count the humans as animals, but if you don't, then none.
Yeah.
I mean, this is very interesting. Well, of course, there's a logic behind, because the future of the species doesn't depend on how happy the elderly are. It depends on the education or the raising of the young. You want healthy and robust individuals in each animal species to survive and let the weak ones die. But you want to have the future generation, animal generation, to be as healthy, as strong as possible. So you see, this is the big difference between the logosphere and the protosphere. In the protosphere, there's just no protection of the old. In the logosphere, there is. There's so much the individual can do for himself or for herself in saving your substance to give you security in the old age. But beyond that, there is also society which can reinforce, first of all, with good laws, which will allow the savings of the individual to be well protected. It will not be subject to plunder, you see, let alone plunder by the government and the banks themselves. And once you have that, then you can look forward to a relatively carefree old age, happy old age? Well, of course, there are always things which make the old age unhappy, as the song which the students had, Gaudeamus igitur juvenes dum sumus, let's be happy until we are young. And then it goes on to say, and I leave the Latin out and just say it in English, because after the old age strikes, then it's no longer happy, and the ground is ready to take us in the grave. The grave is opening and will be buried. So, but there's something you can do. You can make the old age as happy as possible, and therefore we are talking about the point of contact between the logosphere and the protosphere. And that's where gold comes in. So either I say gold and interest, or I say gold and senescence. We have used this word already. It's not an everyday word in the English language. Senescence is means old age literally, but mainly with its worries. You are afraid of sicknesses, you are afraid of being frail and fragile and not having the power to fend for yourself or even protect yourself. So you are subject to all kinds of negative impulses. It could be just plunder. You hear stories that elderly ladies on the street go shopping and they have their little bag, and then these bandits would grab the bag and run away with it. Or break into the home of elderly people and rob them, because these robbers know that they cannot put up a great deal of resistance. So you see, this is the thing. Old age has to be protected. Human beings can do that, and they can do that only if the legal system gives you the background, which perhaps formally it does, but in effect it doesn't, because the government comes in with pushing interest rates down. That's directly against the interest of the elderly people. And there are many other indications that rather than helping the elderly to a happy old age, the government is pushing it down. And of course, I don't have to tell you that the social security system in the United States, and it has a different name in different countries, is a sham. Is a shameless sham, because it's the money flows in, you are taxed for this old age security, the money flows in and the government immediately spends the money and puts in the Social Security Trust Fund IOUs, government bonds. But you know something? Those government bonds are non-marketable. They are not exposed to the wear and tear, the slings and arrows of an outrageous fortune. And if they were, probably the bid would go to zero. Nobody would pay a red penny for a government bond which is backing up the Social Security Fund of the United States in his right mind. And that's a fact. They would not expose these funds to the wear and tear of the free market. Because that would immediately reveal that those bonds are worthless. Literally worthless. Because there's no bid. Or the government can put fancy values on them. And academic economists can back it up. Yes, of course. This is a big social achievement. We have social security. No more worry in old age for anybody, because they can always fall back on their social security. Well, just wait and see and watch. I don't want to put a number on it, but hundreds of millions of people will be gravely disappointed because they will have nothing to fall back on when the social security safety network disintegrates, disappears.
It's a revolution.
It will be just like a cobweb. You can fall through it and don't even notice that there was something. The social system. So this is what I'm saying to you as a little addendum to what Sandeep said, that we need a positive theory of interest. Let's stop apologizing for the gold standard because it is a rather negative approach, but concentrate on the positive aspect of it. And this is the point of contact between the logosphere and the protosphere, that we have gold, and gold is materially helpful in making old age happy as far as humanly possible. So I just thought I would at least start.
And then add some words. Just to summarize a little bit your very interesting exposition. I think that the tradition that starts with David Ricardo and continues with the currency school and later in part with Mises and Hayek focuses especially values gold because gold helps to limit the quantity of money and credit, and the only value of gold is because it restricts the quantity of money and credit. In fact, David Ricardo thought that if we could replace all the gold by paper money, limiting its quantity, it would be as good as gold. On the other hand, the positive theory of gold would be precisely the Hungarian theory, where you value the quality of gold as a present good, as a monetary asset, in order to regulate the accumulation of debt in the system, but not on the quantity of debt, but on the quality of that debt, and to create a financial structure for human beings, which is time and risk consistent with their needs, so that you can retire with an income, a stream of income, which fits with your necessities. As gold has been expelled from the system, this is no longer the case, and we have an accumulation not only of quantity but of bad quality of debt, which once it has exploded, it has revealed that there was a huge capital consumption, a huge destruction of wealth, and now we have problems not only for the elder people, but also for the young people, which are not able to find a job because they may have specialized in some skills and they don't fit in the productive structure. So I think that the positive theory of money is precisely this, to value the quality, not the quantity, the quality of gold as the perfect, or at least the best up to now, monetary asset to regulate both the use of debt as currency, for instance, real bills, and also the long-term investment in capital through the capital markets. And without gold, it's impossible to, without a healthy monetary unit, let's call gold, it's impossible to regulate that.
Thank you very much, Professor Juan Rayo. I take pleasure in welcoming him. He has just arrived today, earlier today, and he is going to be our guest speaker tomorrow at 12 o'clock here. So I would like to urge you to make a point to attend his lecture. It's the highlights of our course, and we welcome him. And please give Professor Rayo a hand.
Thank you very much, Professor Fekete.
Are we adjourning? Are we still having a
We're,
discussion?
we're meant to have a break, Professor. Shall we?
Oh yeah, that's right. We used to have a break.
Yeah.
Sure, let's have a break.
Okay.
And then I'll ask
Yes.
for questions from the floor.
I think so. We'll just continue. I think, Professor. I think we'll just continue because
We won't have a break.
no.
Okay.
I think that.
Okay.
Does anyone want a break? No. Okay. So we'll just continue. I think.
Oh, all right.
Are there any questions?
I have a question for Professor Rayo. Welcome to you. You made a distinction between the Ricardian and Zesian theory that gold is good money because it's hard to increase the quantity. And the Mandarin idea is that gold is good money because of its quality. Isn't the non-ability to increase the quantity of gold quickly, equality?
Yeah,
The
it's
gold, what is the real distinction between these two?
it's just one of the. I would say it's just one of the factors, but not.
Yeah, this was more characteristics, the ability, the
Yeah.
use from the regression theorem.
Of course,
American.
the fact that as Professor Fekete usually remembers, that the flow to a stock ratio is, in the case of gold, very low, so you only can produce small quantity of gold each year in relation to the current stock, is a quality which limits, which restricts the supply side of gold. But it's not just a question about the supply of gold, but also about the demand of gold. You may have a paper money with a supply absolutely restricted, and which would be a very unstable and a very bad money in case the demand for that money is very unstable. And in the case of gold, the demand for gold is built above a very wide non-monetary demand, and also monetary demand is very stable because the rest of the qualities of gold, because it can be divided, it doesn't erode itself, because it has a tradition of stable value and of recognized international value, because it's very difficult to falsify, because it is one of the most easily, or one of the metals which is more easily to work with. All of that allows the gold to have a very narrow bit of offer spread once it is used as a monetary asset. And so it's not just the quantity of course, the knowledge that no one is in charge of multiplying the quantity of gold is an important factor, but it's not the only one.
But I mean, is it something, I don't know about Ricardo, but do you think it's something needs to be disputed? That it's only the
Thing that misses, for instance, allowed different kinds of money to exist. I mean, he speaks about governmental money with no backing, about credit money, and about merchandise money. I don't know the English term. So the fact that you make equal these three kinds of money, I think it's an error.
Yeah.
Credit.
But I mean, the lease does recommend gold with money, so.
Yeah, of course. I mean, in the case of Ricardo, it's clearly because it limits its quantity. In the case of Mises, it's not so exaggerated, but of course, I'm not. In the case of Mises and Hayek, it's not so much to limit the quantity of money, but to limit the quantity of credit it can be born out of a given quantity of money. But the point is, it's not only important the quantity of credit, but the quality of that credit. And I think that's something in part Mises forget.
Italian.
The University School of Economics means when they mean the quantity of money involved.
In part, yes. I mean, the quantity theory is wrong in many senses.
Can you define it quickly?
The quantity theory.
If you attend the lectures.
After two, and I can pose my questions, but it's interlinked my questions to you with what I'm just talking about.
I mean,
conversation after the Q&A with
Yeah.
the lectures.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, good.
I have a question, Sandy, and I'm sorry I didn't ask it before. I was just trying to formulate it to make sure I was asking the right thing. The first thing is, or my first question was going to be, and I think you answered it, when we speak about the spread between the marginal productivity of capital and the marginal time preference, there's going to be a curve of spreads, be ranked according to time terms, right? Is that right? Okay. Which is what you said you were going to speak later, or you're going to develop later. Okay. Then the other question is, it would seem to me somehow that this idea of arbitraging between the bid and the ask in this market, between the stock market, net yield, and the bond market return, is arbitraging between shorter term financial assets and longer term equity assets, so to speak.
I just use stock markets as an example. I mean, there doesn't need to be a stock market for this arbitrage to be done.
Okay.
I mean, but it's just easier to visualize it because you have market yields for the stock market.
There is nothing in this model that would stop a saver or a person who saves from entering directly the capital market, so to speak.
No. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the final question. I guess the other question has to do with Peter's presentation on the discount rate. I get maybe it's a question for all of you, really. I mean, I understand the idea of a bill being. I mean, a bill is not really discounted on face value. There's a discount offered in case you want to take it, right? So if you have if you have a production structure like the one you described in the oil market, and you reach the retailer of oil, the wholesaler offers a discount on its bill to the retailer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because he says, if you pay me immediately, you'll get a discount, right? If not, pay me face value. So the retailer can technically, he can take advantage of this discount and get paid immediately, or he can wait for it. I guess in accounting terms, in accounting terms, we would say the wholesaler is financing the operation of the retailer.
Wholesaler is financing the offering. No, the retailer is financing the business of the wholesaler.
But why? That's something I don't understand.
Because the retailer's good is more marketable.
He has accepted by his signature. Now he's bound.
Yes, but he doesn't have to. He doesn't have to pay for it. He doesn't have to finance the acquisition of his goods.
Sandy, can I address that? It's
Yeah.
right up my alley.
Yeah.
You think about the 30,000 liters of gasoline being delivered to the gas station and the bill being signed. Now, the wholesaler knows that if there was no bill being signed but cash demanded, he would not be delivering 30,000 liters. Okay, the gasoline station does not have cash to buy anything more than maybe 5,000 liters, 1,000 liters. So it's to the benefit of the wholesaler to give terms in order to sell 30,000 liters of gasoline. And it's to the benefit of the retailer, of course, to pay down the road. So it's a mutually agreed thing, and the exact discount comes from this play out. They both benefit.
No, I mean, I'm not disagreeing that they both benefit or not. Of course, I mean, it's a voluntary exchange. But from my point of view, if I'm a retailer, I would always want to go to a supplier that will give me a payment term.
Of course.
And the reason is, I don't have to pay immediately. I mean, it's very beneficial for me. I can finance a 90-day operation without actually making payments to my suppliers, which is there's a lot of value there. But you talk about it the other way around, like, and I'm not sure how to get around it.
If the retailer, I mean, okay, so you've got the wholesaler and the retailer here. So the wholesaler comes to the retailer with the petrol, and he signs the receipt. £100 payable in 10 days, and then the wholesaler gets it back. It's up to the market rate of discount how much that bill would be worth in cash terms. But what don't you understand? What do you don't quite get?
I'm not sure who did that presentation, but somebody said the retailer was actually financing the wholesaler.
Could you repeat that? I didn't get that.
The retailer is financing the wholesaler.
Financing is the wrong expression.
Yes.
The consumer is financing everything. But the retailer is closer to the consumer than the wholesaler. And therefore he's going to get the gold coin first. And that makes a huge difference who gets the gold coin first. The retailer does. And that gives him an extra power. The retailer has, if anything, power over the wholesaler. Whereas in the Mises view, the wholesaler extends a loan to the retailer, which would give the power, the extra power, to the wholesaler. But in effect, it's just the reverse. Why? Because the consumer gives the gold coin directly to the retailer, and then the retailer will disburse the wholesaler and all the others who put into some effort and material into the production of the gasoline or the petrol.